Yes, Your Honor. The government calls Mr. Sean Gallagher to the stand.
May I be seated?
Yes, you may.
And may I proceed?
You may.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Sean Gallagher. Gallagher.
How old are you, Mr. Gallagher?
I am 26 years old.
And where do you currently live?
I live in Trentino, Fredonia, though I am here to view some of your battlefield games. I love your association, especially the Manassas City Rebels.
Are you familiar with this respondent, Miss Jens Kinderhaas?
Yes. I thought she was my friend.
And how are you familiar with her?
I used to play basketball with Jens.
And during this time, where did you work, Mr. Gallagher?
I managed a gas station. It paid the bills for my house and for my 33 restaurants. It was greatest collection in all of Fredonia.
And what was the political climate like in Fredonia before the election of 2010, during this time?
I have never really been that involved in politics. I am not part of Nave or Spree Party. But you did not need to be to notice the big changes that the Spree government was making.
What types of changes was the Spree government making?
There were certain things that did not get reported on the news that should have. People were disappearing in the middle of the night. It started to affect me with what happened at my work.
What types of things happened at your work, Mr. Gallagher?
First, they came in and took half of my magazines off the rack, and I was never allowed to stock those magazines again. Then, they come in and instead of paying for gas, they wave a badge in my face and leave without pay. A man has to make a living. Last, they come in and take 20% of my revenue on top of regular taxes. No explanation.
Did you ever object to any of this, Mr. Gallagher?
I certainly did not agree with it. I started to draw flyers and cartoons, speaking out about what they were doing and how it was wrong to us.
And what did you do with these flyers?
I would post them on trees and telephone poles.
Did you ever directly show your flyers to anyone?
I only ever showed them to one person, Jens Kindaris.
Can you explain this scenario for the court?
It was one day after Battle Ball game. We went over to Jen's truck to have some pickle juice to refresh ourselves. She led me to believe that she believed in my cause, that the government was doing wrong. So I showed her my cartoon, and she laughed and complimented me. I think nothing of it.
What was on this flyer that you showed the respondent?
It was ventriloquist holding dummy, speak about free speech.
And what happened as a result of this encounter?
Just the next morning, I wake up at 4 a.m. to loud banging on door. I think it is alcoholic neighbor Jenkins at it again. I go down to door, ready to scold Jenkins. But it is not him.
Who is it, Mr. Gallagher?
It was 6 uniformed Spree agents who pepper spray me in the face and throw me to the ground.
What happened after this?
They dragged me out to their government van, making comments about my flyer.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has begun to testify in hearsay. May I be heard?
You may.
He is testifying about comments that the guards were making about these flyers, and counsel's offering a statement to prove the truth of the matter is certain.
May I respond?
You may.
Your Honor, these statements are hearsay. However, under the mock trial rules, they are an exception to the hearsay rule under 803.2, Rule 803.2, excited utterance. An excited utterance is defined as a statement relating to an event made while under the stress of that event. These statements were being made while Sean Gallagher was being forcibly drugged from his home at 4 a.m., and they are relating to the event as they are discussing the purpose for the arrest. It is reasonable for us to infer that all people involved in forcibly removing him would have been affected by the stress of this event.
Your Honor, may I briefly respond?
Briefly?
This extended utterance may apply to Sean Gallagher, who's being arrested, but not to the guards whose job it is to arrest people. There's been no foundation laid that they were making an excited utterance.
Oh, I'm going to allow it. Go ahead.
What comments did you hear, Mr. Gallagher?
They said, "Who's the dummy now?" And said I should be more careful who I play battle ball with.
And had you ever shown this cartoon regarding a ventriloquist dummy to anyone at all?
Only Jenskin does.
Had you shown anyone else flyers from your volleyball team?
No.
What happened after you were taken?
I woke up in small and cell with cat, sink, and toilet, and disgusting change of clothes.
What did you do during this time, Mr. Gallagher?
Push-ups, sit-ups. Maybe sometimes I replay a soccer game in my head. I had to do something to keep it together.
Why do you say that, Mr. Gallagher?
The light, it was always on and humming. After a while, I finally began to sleep with it on. Then they started the music. So loud that I learned that I lose much of my hearing in my left ear. But that was not the worst of it.
What was the worst of it, Mr. Gallagher?
They turned the temperature down so cold. I sit there freezing and shivering for hours. Other days, they turn it up so hot. I sit there sweating and sweating until I have no more sweat, and I pass out.
How were you able to survive, Mr. Gallagher?
The only way I survived was from a nice brigand who had to sneak me water. He had to sneak me water. I can't imagine what would have happened if he was caught.
And were you ever allowed to leave your confinement?
Maybe once a week. We were taken out to the courtyard and marched up to big government official's office, where she would interrogate us about dangerous people. All I ever said is that I wanted a lawyer. I wanted to know why I was being kept here without any justice. But they just threw me back in the jail cell.
And when did this finally end, Mr. Gallagher?
7 months. 213 days in that horrible cell. And I was finally released when the Nath government won the election.
So were you able to return to your old lifestyle?
I could not. I went back to my home, but it was not there. They had bulldozed it along with all of my personal possessions and my frogs.
And how were you able to get back on your feet, Mr. Gallagher?
I was given a new gas station to work at and a new place to stay because the knaves are righting the wrongs of the spree government.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions at this time.